Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Milwaukee Open Series. I'm Glenn Jones. I'm joined in the booth by Adrian Sullivan.
Hello.
Not for the first time.
Not for the first time. I'm used to seeing you in the booth.
Yeah, but welcome to my table instead of having your own little table. You're playing today, a rare break from commentating for you, and you're actually playing a red deck, which might not surprise too many people.
It's true. I love red, and I've been a big fan of red ever since basically Chicago players in the late 90s were beating everybody up with it, and you really learn how to play red when you're being beaten up by it. And
sure.
I think red is really good right now. I know I was helping several different groups play test for the Pro Tour, and so we had a deck we called Blue Elemental Blast, which was the Master of Waves deck, which you can see with the Blue Devotion. That
I prefer
teams.
Surf's Up.
Surf's Up's pretty good, but regardless of the case, except for that deck, we were just basically beating things with essentially Adam Jansen's mono red deck. That it's not exactly mono red because we splash a touch of white for sideboard cards and then for Boros Charm.
Okay.
And in the playtesting, as we got to that point, we shifted from being purely Adam Jansen's build, which was a fanatic of Mogi's build, into being a dragon build. So it ended up becoming closer to the list that me and Ronnie Serio have been working on for, I want to say for 2 years, but it's not accurate. When did Thundermaw come about? So I guess almost 2 years.
It's closing in, sure.
Yeah, so now this deck is like that, which is to say it's got low end and high end, and then stuff in the middle. In the old build, that would have meant like Cackler and whatever else, and then Thundermaw and Falcon Wrath Aristocrat. In this build, that means Fire Drinker Satyr and the Cackler, and on the top end it means Chandra Pyromaster, and it means Stormbreath Dragon.
Yeah, I actually really like Fire Drinker Satyr. He got kind of, smack talked a little bit when he first came out because, Jackal Pups aren't as good as they used to be, basically.
That's a fair thing. Jackal Pups aren't.
Yeah, he is, much closer to a Jackal Pup than most of the Jackal Pups, like Tormented Hero, which is a Jackal Pup with upside.
Well, I mean, that pump ability is real. It's really real. I mean, you can tear down, an Ox, which is not seeing as much play because that guy is really good against an Ox.
Yeah.
You don't usually care if you're tossing away the life if you're getting rid of, let's say, a Fleece Mane Lion.
Sure.
You're just like, yeah, you got me. It's 4 damage.
Anything
but your lion is
away.
dead.
Yeah.
Get that out of there.
That's the kind of trades you're used to making. And also, these red decks need sinks. When you get to the late game and you don't actually have spells to play anymore.
Yeah.
Cards that actually let you use your mana are
Absolutely.
pretty useful. So one of the things I noticed first was you mentioned that you had kind of it started off as a red-white Fanatic of Mogi's build, which is closer to the Philip Bertorelli list we saw with Rooster. And it was funny because in the top 16 of that event, there was a base red deck splashing white that was also a Fanatic of Mogi's red-white deck played by John Guy.
Yes.
So you're talking about taking this deck to a more traditional, mono red route, but keeping that white splash for the sideboard.
Yeah, I mean, there is Boros Charm main, but really Boros Charm is playing like the best counterspell ever. It says no Supreme Verdict, no to Hero's Demise, and you saw in the match that I played earlier, my opponent Hero's Demise during my turn, and I said no, and my Stormbreath Dragon still hit him.
Yeah.
And sure, I could do 4 damage by Boros Charming their face, but I'd rather keep a dragon.
Yeah, that sounds like strictly better, as far as strictly betters go. So how has Chain to the Rocks actually been? You're sideboarding them. John Guy main decked them, I believe, in
I think that if you're playing an aggressive red strategy, you can't afford more than 2 or 3 cards in your main deck that don't damage your opponent. Okay. So in my main deck, that's 2 Mortars. If you wanted to, you could do 2 Chain to the Rocks or something like that, but I think Mortars is just a little bit better because I've only got 8 white sources. But in the sideboard, I know I'm running 3, and the guys I mentioned before, Adam Jansen and Ronnie Serio, they're playing this deck at the Pro Tour. They're running 4 in the sideboard. I was finding, and they did not have this experience, I was finding that the white mana was sometimes not happening.
Yeah.
And so I cut it down to 3 to try to minimize that. But basically, Chain to the Rocks comes in against all of the cards that are really good. If there's a big creature out there, let's say it's a big green creature, Chain to the Rocks deals with it. I mean, I don't care if it's, Pelucranos, I don't care, if it's Colonian Hydra or whatever, it's just gone. Or if they're, one of the things that happens against, say, Obzidat almost never phases out against this deck. And so you can say, hi, Obsidian, go away, things like that. And it's just a very powerful spell, and it's actually the primary reason this deck is splashing white, is that card right there.
Yeah, sure. And that's not that unusual to have it be for a sideboard card, because it's so high impact in all the matches that you need it. Plus, this deck obviously is going to have a mountain in play more consistently than many Chained to the Rocks.
Yes. I mean, I'm running 13 mountains plus 4 Sacred Foundries, so odds are high.
The last card from your sideboard I wanted to talk about, you mostly got some conventional stuff in there, Frostburn Weirds and Shocks and whatnot, but you have Tajik, Blade of the Legion.
Yes, I do.
And you got just one. What's he force? I assume like the green-white decks that have kind of a tough time removing him? But...
they have an impossible time removing him. They cannot remove him. And the thing is they can still Selesnya Charm him if he's huge, which he often won't be. But there's a couple of prongs that are happening here. In the red mirrors, they can only chain him for one. And because you're running Mutavaults and haste creatures, it's actually very, very easy to battalion him.
Yeah.
But importantly, I think one of the elements of it is you have time in the mirrors, because like what I'm bringing in those mirrors ends up looking something like
removal, right?
like Shocks and Weirds and Chains and Mortars. So this guy actually hits, and then he stays in the aggressive mirrors. So it doesn't matter unless they have trample. He'll hold off whatever their best creature is. So you can kind of think of it as like an icy manipulator in that sense. And then when he turns sideways, usually it's only 2 damage, but sometimes it's just you're dead. So they can't attack at all. You have these situations where then you get to the point where you get to stay alive longer, and your dragons can go to the air, and your mortars can get kicked, and your Chandras can come down. He just buys a million turns.
So yeah, he contributes to the long game plan, which your deck does much better than the Fnatic deck, which is basically just trying to peel the opponent.
Yeah,
once they get
absolutely. I mean, if you're a red deck and this thing hits the table, I mean, it's basically another card that's practically not removable.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you'd be interested to know that at the Pro Tour, traditional red aggro decks such as Chandra's Phoenix and the Curve and the like actually did significantly better than the Fnatic decks. Their win percentage was higher, so it looks like the help you did with your testing group paid off, and I hope it pays off for you in the rest of this event.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.